Hello, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. This is part 2 of the ground source heating job that we're on. In today's video, we're going to be installing some underfloor heating. So we'll be showing you our installation method as well as the tools we'll be using. As well as that, we've got to start decommissioning the vented cylinder that's in the existing farmhouse and converting it over to the unvented cylinder that's in the exterior barn. Okay, so we've just got the pipework onto the decoiler now, so strongly recommend using one of these when installing underfloor heating. It makes it a lot easier so you don't get any kinks or any tangles in the pipework when you're unraveling it. So a little bit of an expense initially, but obviously keep it safe, use it on every job and you get your money's worth out of it. So this is the underfloor heating stapler we're going to be using. Quite simple really. You just put pressure on the top of the handle and what that does is it inserts a plastic staple into the Celotex, so it saves you getting down on your hands and knees and pushing the clips in either with a mallet or just with your hands. So what will happen is one of us will roll the pipe out from the decoiler and the other one will follow and just staple the pipes in. Right, so here's the underfloor heating we've previously installed in part 1 of this ground source heating job. If you haven't seen part 1, feel free to check it out. There'll be a link at the end of this video. So you can see here it's only got 3 zones. So we've got a passageway / utility room and then a living area space. So it's going to be quite a small system. So I always recommend getting the underfloor heating manifold on the wall first before you start running your pipe work. That way you can get all the pipework nice and neat coming up in through the bottom, and also you won't risk cutting the pipework too short. Okay, so when purchasing an underfloor heating system, you should be supplied with designs from the plans that you would have sent the manufacturer of the pipework. You can see here we've got the garden room and also we've got the passageway. So we've got 2 zones in the garden room and 1 zone in the passageway. So with these drawings you need to take them with a bit of a pinch of salt, because in real life we obviously have some sort of obstacles and places in the room where we can't actually run pipe work because they might have units fitted, or for example in this garden room we've actually got sockets going into the floor, so you need to bear that in mind before starting to run the pipe work. But the main alteration that we've got in this design is there's actually a step here now, so we can't run this pipe work along here into this zone, so we've got to break through the back of the cupboard and then straight into the garden room. We'll still be following the same layout, so we'll still be going left to right like it is in here, keeping the right centres, which is 200mm, which it should say over here somewhere. Yeah, so all our pipe centres are 200mm. And yeah, then we'll just be starting at the manifold, making sure we get the correct flow and return, which is indicated here by these arrows, and then running it around and then straight back up into the manifold. So while I've been waffling on camera, Bailey started to lay the first zone. So he's broken through into the manifold cupboard and he's allowed plenty of excess just so we don't make any mistakes by cutting it too short. So when you get your underfloor heating design, it should tell you what the pipe centres are going to be. It's normally dependent on the room size and also the fuel source. So our pipe centres are 200mm, so we're 200mm away from the perimeter of the building, and then each pipe that we lay will be 200mm centres apart. So as you can see here, Bailey's cut a batten 200mm, and that keeps our pipe distances nice and equal throughout the whole job. So we're using MLC pipework, so it's actually quite strong, so we don't need to worry too much about kinking it, whereas other manufacturers, especially the clear stuff, you can kink quite easy, but this is very similar to your MLC pipework that you would press fit, if any of you guys have used that on any of your plumbing and heating jobs. Okay, we've got the first zone in now. As you can see, we're about to go a little bit freestyle by the entrance going into the garden room, and this is because we're having kitchen units going along this area here, so we didn't want to have heating going up into the cupboards where food etc is going to be stored. So by the door we've had to change the direction of the pipe work, so you're totally fine doing this as long as you keep the pipe centres the same. So on this job it's 200mm. So because we've got that step going into the garden room, we're having to alter the design we've been given and break a hole through into this room from the underfloor heating manifold cupboard. So actually it makes it a little bit easier for us. So we just got to alter the design slightly, keep within the 200mm centres, and it'll all be fine. So when you purchase your underfloor heating, you might find you get given a conduit roll like this. Now what this is for is to stop heat dispersing into unwanted zones. So for example, the garden room, the flow and return was initially going to pass through the passageway. So what you would have to have done is put the conduit on the flow and return to the zone through the passageway and then stop it around here. So the reason you do that is if in the future, if you had the garden room calling for heat and the passageway turned off, you wouldn't want the heat from the garden room flow and return leaking into the passageway. Okay, so we're at the manifold cupboard now, and I've got to cut all the pipes into position. So because it's MLC pipe, or similar to MLC pipe, I've got to deburr it, then put these rubber inserts in, and then I can connect them up onto the manifold with split rings and the nut. Okay, so the underfloor heating's done now. We're about to pressure test it, so we've got a hose pipe set up to the manifold. We always leave the underfloor heating fill up with water just in case there's any problems during the build or when they're starting to screed. So always recommend it, don't let them screed without filling up with water, because you never know, you might have a manufacturing defect or a problem with the pipework that you won't be aware of, and then you can have a lot of issues come second fix. Okay, so we've got all the underfloor heating pipework in place now. We followed the flow and return diagrams off the drawing, so we know which one went to which manifold. Obviously, we've got the red levered isolation valve for flow and the return in blue. So what we're going to do is, we've got the hose pipe connected up to the manifold now. We're just going to fill it all up with water, make sure the pipework holds its pressure, and then that'll be job done on this for now. Okay, so we're all filled up with water now, bled through. And yeah, we're going to leave it at 3 bar. You can pressurise it all the way up to 6 bar if the manufacturer requires, some do. But I'm happy to leave it at 3. We've got no water leaks, got no air escaping. So I've made sure I've taken the actuators off, obviously just to let the water flow through. You do normally get builder's caps for these, but for some reason we haven't got any on this one. But so we'll leave that open, and yeah, we can move on to the next part of the job.